somewhere. Okay. All right. Today, we're talking about the very, very basics, the fundamentals of nutrition. And I kind of call it like applied nutrition, because everything that we're going to discuss here is something that you can really, it's knowledge that you can take to what you're eating today. It will help you kind of as you're shopping at the supermarket. It'll help you make informed decisions while you're at restaurants. This is kind of like a lot of this information is like what you would get at like an introductory 101 nutrition class, like at a university, but I think it may be slightly more applied. There are a lot of implications that you can take into your life from the information that we'll talk today. There's some really obvious ones that I'm thinking through, but there's a million directions that we can go from this info. So if at any point you're not understanding what I'm talking about, please ask, because it's very likely that somebody else doesn't understand it either. And I'll take almost as long as we need to kind of explain some of this stuff. So looking forward to it. Okay. Apply the basic science of food to your life for lasting results. One of the big reasons why people struggle to get long-term results with their health is because they really don't have a good grasp of the objective rules of like what food is. So today we're going to talk about that. What is food? I'm going to ask this by weight. If you put food, whether it's chicken or rice or a Big Mac, if you put it on a scale, what is food? What are the components that make up the weight that you see on a scale? And you can answer this. I've given this answer to one person today, I know, but somebody, I want to hear what y'all think.
Water, fat, and protein.
Yeah, and one other thing. Carbs, yeah. Okay, so primarily, there's also fiber and alcohol, but yeah, pretty much the weight of food is water, macronutrients, and a tiny amount of micronutrients. They're really not even going to show up on the scale. So here's an example. A ribeye steak is a fun example I usually like to use. This is what a chronometer entry might look like. If you put 100 grams, which is like, almost 4 ounces of a ribeye steak on a scale, so you weigh out 100 grams of food. And a lot of people don't like understand like, well, what does it mean? Like 19 grams of protein, 18 grams of fat. We're going to talk about what that means. But literally by weight, 19 of the grams of that steak is protein, and 17 grams of the weight of that steak is fat. So I did the math up here. So approximately 38 grams of what you put on the scale of that steak comes from fat and protein, and pretty much the other 61 grams of the water. And then less than 1 gram, in many cases far, far less, you're going to have micronutrients like vitamins and minerals. But so does that kind of make sense? Like if you eat a Big Mac, a Big Mac might weigh, or a quarter pounder, from McDonald's. A quarter pounder weighs a quarter pound, but what you're actually getting is you're getting a certain amount of water, a certain amount of carbs, a certain amount of fat. And then, there's obviously fiber in there as well. So does that kind of make sense? Like that's what food is. It's just sort of helpful to actually like back up and talk about that. So when I'll show you all some of the applied pieces of that here soon. But basically, you need to know all your food is pretty much going to be made up of protein, carbs, and fat. So we're going to talk right now about the macronutrients. The macronutrients are protein, fats, and carbs. I almost quizzed you on that, but I'm 3 for 3. In the last 3 calls I've had, I've asked everybody to name the macronutrients, and everybody's gotten it right. So I'm glad about that. Y'all are doing great. We call it fiber and alcohol are like faux macronutrients, because fiber is a carbohydrate, but humans don't have the enzyme to break them down. Fiber, cows can eat hay and they can digest that hay into nutrition. That hay is mostly fiber. We can't digest it. It just passes right through us, which is one of the reasons why fiber helps our digestion, because it just literally moves through our digestive system and passes through. Alcohol is kind of a macronutrient because it has calories, but it doesn't actually Like your body can productively use proteins, fats, and carbs. Your body can't really use alcohol. It just has to kind of process it and has to just kind of deal with it. So it's got calories. So it's a macronutrient, but it's not giving you any usable energy really, if that makes sense. I mean, it does kind of, but it's an exception. And then the micronutrients are, all your vitamins, A, D, E, K, C, all Q, R, S, T, U, V. Minerals like zinc, magnesium, sodium. You could just go down the list. There's a million micronutrients. They're all important. The way these are defined, macronutrients are the foods that your body needs in large quantities. Micronutrients are the nutrients that your body needs in very small quantities. So that's pretty much like you need a lot of protein to survive. You only need a little bit of vitamin A in your body. Any questions on this? Any questions on like weighing the steak? Does that kind of make sense? So if you've got a scale on your counter and you weigh out a chicken breast, if you weigh out 100 grams of a chicken breast, you might get 31 grams of protein, 4 grams of fat, 0 carb there too. And then the rest is water. Yes, Donna.
So make sure if I remember this right, you weigh it before you cook it?
Oh, question. So yeah, so this is a bit of a it kind of depends. Donna, my thing, the cooked weight and a pre-cooked weight are actually going to have slightly different numbers because a cooked weight is the water is going to be cooked out, so it's going to be a higher percentage of protein. I would just do it consistently. So whatever you do, try to do it the same way. But sometimes in the cooking process, it's helpful to weigh it before you cook. Sometimes it's helpful after. I generally weigh after cooked, but Chronometer and MyFitnessPal and those usually will have different entries for uncooked or for cooked. So if they don't have different entries, just do whatever you have. But usually you can be. I just do it after I cook.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think you get like 25% more nutrients after you cook because about 25% of the water cooks off. Okay, so macronutrients are broken down into calories. Before I pop that slide up there. So macronutrients are divided into calories. So for example, protein gives you 20 grams. 20 grams of protein has a caloric value. It's not necessarily the same as the calories in 20 grams of fat. It's actually not the same. Does anybody know how many calories are in 1 gram of protein? Yeah, Donna's holding up a number. Does anybody else know it off the top of their head that want to say it?
4.
4. So protein's got 4 calories in a gram of protein. So 20 grams of protein would be how many calories?
80.
80.
And then 20 grams of fat would be, oh, we haven't talked about that. How many calories are in a gram of fat? Does anybody know?
9.
Yeah, 9. So 20 grams of fat is, I've got my calculator here. It's 180 calories. And then we said protein, which is 20 grams times 4 is roughly 80. So with our estimation, we get, this is 260 calories just because I overestimated the fat. And we can see in Chronometer that it's 250 calories, right? So that's where that number comes from. So does everybody understand how 250, we got that, and on the calculator, we pretty much got 250 as well. Does that make sense?
Can you just do that one more time really quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so there are 4 calories per gram of protein, and there are 9 calories per gram of fat. So we're going to do 4 times 20 for the protein, which is 80. So that's 80 calories from the protein. And then we'll be more accurate. Fat is 18 grams times how many calories per gram, Cindy?
9.
Times 9. So that's 162. And we're going to do plus 80 calories from the protein. And it's 242. Again, I'm just kind of using round numbers, but we got the same thing now.
Okay, I got that. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so that's a great example. So here's a helpful way to remember it is carbs have the same amount of calories per gram as protein. So we talked about how protein are 4 calories per gram, carbs have 4 as well. Okay, so that's great to remember. The simplest way to remember this is fat is a little bit more than twice as calorically dense as carbs and protein. It's the simplest way to think through it. You don't necessarily have to remember 9, 4, and 4. You just know, hey, if I have the same amount of grams of fat and carbs and protein, I'm eating about 50% of my calories from fat, maybe a little bit more. Alcohol, a lot of times people, when they go like a low carb diet, they're like, yeah, I can drink whiskey because, there's no carbs in it, but there's calories in it. So in general, a drink of alcohol is about 100 calories. So the way they come up with the serving size for wine, whiskey, and beer is it's about 100 calories. So 4 ounces of wine is roughly 100 calories. 2 ounces of a liquor is roughly 100 calories as well. Now, like an IPA, if you're a person who drinks like wheat beers, those will often have like 600 calories because they've got carbs in them as well. So they've got carbs and alcohol. That has been a really big, I used to really like an IPA or two. And I wondered why I felt just like horrible the next day. I just had 2 beers. And, it was helpful when I really started tracking that and seeing that, I drank 950 calories in 25 minutes, no wonder I didn't feel amazing the next day. So now I've just rotated and switched. I have like a Michelob Ultra, which is very, very little carbs. So the only calories I'm getting from it is from the alcohol. So calories are simply a unit of energy, like what's in a light bulb. Calories is just it's like pounds on a scale. How much energy is carried by all these things. Calories are a nutrient in and of themselves. In the history of humanity, we have a problem now with too many calories because we're getting overweight. In the history of humanity, one of the greatest crises in human life is getting enough calories. Calories do matter. They are a nutrient. We need calories. They're essential to life. So a lot of times, for so long, we've got a negative image. We want to eat low calorie. We want to opt for the low calorie option. When I first start with a client, almost inevitably, the first thing they do is they start to eat less, and they just say, hey, I'm doing better. I'm eating less. But that's not necessarily true if you're undernourished. And if you need more nutrients, you might actually need some more calories sometimes. We'll talk about that in videos that come after this. Okay, so this is a very common, this mistake happens sometimes with protein bars. Sometimes it happens with eggs. Does anybody want to share what the first thing they noticed about eggs was when they started kind of tracking their food and working with me? So almost a universal experience.
It's fat.
Yeah, egg. What do you mean? So put it high in fat. Yeah. So people say, yeah, I need to get more protein, so I'll eat an egg. Well, an egg is it's 5 grams of fat and 6 grams of protein. So somebody tell me the math on that. 5 grams of fat, 6 grams of protein. Approximately what percentage of that egg is fat from a calorie standpoint? I just got a message that my internet's unstable. Y'all still seeing me? Am I still here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So about approximately what percentage of calories from an egg come from fat? There's 5 grams of fat, 6 grams of protein. Let's see, 70, let me see. I think of it as like right at about 50. 5 times 9, 45. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, it's about 75. Yeah, I was thinking it was a little closer to that. So there's twice as much calories in a gram of fat. So yeah, between 70 and 75% of an egg, the calories in an egg comes from fat. Now, does that mean eggs are bad? Please, everyone should answer this one correct. Does that mean eggs are bad? Nope, doesn't mean eggs are bad. It means eggs are composed of mostly fat and they've got some protein. I eat several eggs every day. The question is like, why are you eating eggs? If you're eating eggs just for protein, then you probably should find a source. But if you're eating eggs in the context of, you know, just like a good diet that's fueling your body and you're eating fats and proteins, that's perfect. But if you are looking to get more protein and that's the only thing that you need to add to your diet, you shouldn't add eggs. You could do, you know, chicken breast or something. Okay, so this is very common. People buy protein bars. Protein's really expensive, so people pay big money for really good quality sources of protein. So protein bars sell like hotcakes. This is similar to an example we did on a live train 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. So you look on the nutrition of a protein bar, and this is a very, very typical breakdown. We've got a protein bar. It's got 20 grams of protein, 8 grams of fat, 27 grams of carbs. What's y'all's initial reaction to this protein bar? And you can ignore all the crazy ingredients up here. What's our initial reaction to the protein bar? Samantha has a good reaction. She says,
Way too many carbs for me.
Too many carbs.
Too many
Okay.
carbs.
Okay.
That's over half my carbs for the whole day.
Yeah. So you're on a low carb diet right now, Donna. So yeah, so that makes sense that you would skip this because it doesn't fit with your current goals. It's not in the current context of what you're eating for. Now, you might find yourself, Donna, later eating a little bit more carbs because you're kind of rebuilding, you're building some muscle, and you've got plenty of budget for that, and you could eat it then. But what do we think of this protein bar as a protein source? How would we talk about that?
It only has 7.8 grams of fat.
Okay. So that doesn't seem like a lot.
No, it doesn't.
Because carbs, it's got 27, you know, so it's like it's higher in carb. So let's see real quick. So, however, let me check the chat. Okay, so Carol says it's not whole food. Cindy says it's not that high in fat. Here's the biggest takeaway that I would say about this. If you're eating a protein bar, usually the reason why you're trying to eat that is you want to get more protein in your diet. You are getting a little bit of protein for this and a lot of other stuff. That may be okay. Again, like assuming it's not really a whole food, so I wouldn't recommend a protein bar like this. I think it's just kind of got a lot in it. But it may be okay to eat this amount of fat and this amount of carbs, but if you are eating this for protein, you are getting like less than 30% of this is actually protein.
Yeah, I was just doing the math and I was coming up with 30-something% protein.
Yeah, maybe 35, so it might be slightly higher. So a true protein source would be something like 90% protein. Now, again, I'm talking about protein just because this is the most common one. Protein is a little bit harder to get. It's a little bit, the American diet doesn't have that much protein in it. So this is not all about protein though. What I'm trying to just help you see is what are you actually eating? And in this circumstance, you're eating about 30% fat, about or 25% fat, about 35% carbs, about 30% protein. I don't know if that completely adds up, but so if you're eating this for protein, you're like making a wrong decision. It doesn't necessarily mean that you can't eat this bar, but my point is you need to bring an awareness to what you're actually eating. Yeah, okay, there's 32.5% protein in the bar.
32.5% of the 20%?
No, of the total calories of this bar is protein. So 20 grams of protein is 32.5% of the calories of the bar.
Well, when I added up the 20 grams, 8, 27, and did the times 4 and times 9, I got 260 calories. But that's because we aren't using the 26.7. I just used 27. We're rounding up a little bit. So
actually, the difference is fiber doesn't have calories, remember? So they kind of subtracted out the fiber. So instead of 26.7 times 4, you would do 21 basically,
One.
or 20. Yeah, 20.
21.2.
We
Okay.
do,
Yeah.
we do net carbs.
Right. The reason why,
Okay.
this is
So
why.
that would be a little lower.
Yeah. So it might be as much as 35% of the calories from protein, but so that's where that net carbs concept comes in. Is everybody familiar with net carbs?
Yes.
Yeah.
Remember,
No.
net carbs is you take total carbs and you subtract out the fiber. And the reason why you do that is because fiber is not going to contribute to your blood sugar. You're not going to use fiber like you're going to use like sugar. It's not going to convert to blood sugar. It just passes right through your digestive system. So they use, so in the keto world, you can eat plenty of carbohydrate as long as it's higher fiber carbs, and those aren't counting towards your blood sugar. So there's not any calories from it. So you're not going to process it.
So if, say, at night, I want a snack and I haven't reached all of my whatevers, and
Yeah.
it's like this or ice cream or something worse, is it
Yeah.
better to eat this, like even a half of one?
Great question. That's exactly the kind of question that I want you to be thinking through. So I want to actually just hear from y'all. So the question is, it's late at night. I haven't quite hit my targets. I've got a choice between this and ice cream. Because, Cindy, so often people ask me, what should I eat? What's the right thing to eat?
Right.
And I can't answer. I cannot tell you. Now, obviously, eat salmon. There's a whole list of a lot of foods that are great to eat. But our nutrition world is not what's right, what's wrong. The majority of the time, it's a question of, hey, what's a better decision based on your goals?
Mm-hmm.
So let's assume, Cindy, you're like most people, and by low on your targets, we mean you're I've asked you to eat 1,600 calories, and it's 6 o'clock at night, and you're at 1,300 calories, and you're down on your protein by 20 grams or something like that.
And my fat.
Yeah.
It's usually about 9 o'clock, and it's like, okay, I got to have something to eat.
Yeah. So the first thing, Cindy, is, by the way, just in the future, we want you to develop the skill that you're eating better nutrition throughout the day so that you're not having to catch up at night. I'm fine with a little snack after dinner, but obviously eating right before bed, it's not going to be optimal. But I'm not throwing rocks at you. I'm just saying, again, it's a question of what's better. And what's better is for you to learn to eat earlier during the day and play less catch up in the night. But okay, so ice cream. I'm not going to pull up an ice cream from Google yet. We can do that. But y'all tell me, what do you think the percentages of, let's just give like a rough poll. Protein, fat, carbs. Let's do protein and fat and carbs. What percentage do you think ice cream is? If you just had to guess.
I can tell you.
Don't tell me yet. Let's guess.
Okay.
Let's guess. Yeah. So what percentage of ice cream do we think is protein, and then what do we think is okay? Shara says she thinks ice cream is mostly fat and carbs with a little bit of protein. Let's put a number on it. What percentage do we think protein, and what percentage do we think is the rest?
10% protein, 80% fat.
And then maybe 10% carbs. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think Carol might be really close. Carol says 75% fat, 25% carbs, 5% protein. I think it's less than 10% protein. It's probably more fat than you think, but it's probably fat and sugar. So depending on the ice cream, I'm guessing it's probably 65% fat, 5% protein. The rest would be carbs. So
Ready?
Yeah. Cindy Lou, let's see. What is it?
Protein 10%,
Okay.
carbs
Nice.
45%, and fat 45%.
Nice. Okay, so all together, we kind of got pretty close. The Biff, that was great. You nailed the 10% protein. Okay, so my question to you would be, what does your body need? Does your body need more sugar and fat, or does your body need more spinach and micronutrients, or does your body need more protein? And
Ice cream, I would think.
I don't care if it's sugar or fat. My body needs ice cream.
I don't like the spinach and stuff. Well, I like spinach, but I can't have it. And
right.
I forgot what the other thing was that you said besides
cruciferous probably.
Oh yeah, no.
Mm-mm. Yeah. So I'll be the first to say I don't probably expect many of my people to be late night snacking on broccoli. I get it. It's unlikely. It's happened. I've had people do it before. I've done it myself.
Yeah.
But I'm being real. This is why. Who knows what my evening snack is? Anybody? I've said it several times. I've got it pretty much every evening.
Yogurt.
Yeah, I do 2 good yogurt and some berries. I do berries because berries are, they're full of micronutrients, which we'll talk about in a second. I do 2 good yogurt with a little bit of a Fahie, so I'm getting about 20 grams of protein there. My late night snack is about 80% protein, 20% carbs, because I'll put a little bit of honey on it, a little bit of honey and berries. So to me, Cindy, because I've thought through this exact question. What do I do at the end of the day if I'm a little bit low? I've found that generally at the end of the day, I still need a little bit of protein, a little bit of micronutrients, something that I enjoy. And I've found yogurt works for me, and I will love that. And I'll probably be fine to do that for the rest of my life. And I don't have to be really anxious about, am I going to hit my targets? I have dinner, and then I generally pull out my yogurt, and I super enjoy that. And that's a really nutrient dense meal. It's a really nutrient meal because protein is an essential nutrient. I'm getting some berries there, and I just feel great about it.
Well, I could definitely try that because I liked your yogurt. Good. I wasn't a yogurt person before, but I do like the one yogurt you suggested. And I love berries, so maybe I could do that.
Yeah.
I'll try.
Raspberries, blueberries, one of those is on sale just about every week. And so, it's perfectly sustainable for me. And it's a highly nutrient dense meal. And so
there you go. Okay. Yeah. I'll try that tonight.
Another good option. So it is true that you don't want to take down a bunch of sugar before bed. I would say this is an okay option. An okay option would be, because again, this is the question, Cindy. You're asking, what's the right decision? Well, it's on a sliding scale. A thing that's a good time to have, like dark chocolate in the evening. It's actually
buy some of that. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of dark chocolate. Sometimes even if it's made with like coconut oil. I like some of those coconut oil chocolates. It's like it's a good quality saturated fat. It's actually a lot more fat than it is carbs. So you're not actually getting a ton of sugar. And fats actually kind of help your body recover as you go to sleep, get a little bit of dark chocolate in you. And that's like a perfectly reasonable, obviously you're not getting protein in there, but it's a reasonable evening snack.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Awesome.
Andrew?
Yes.
I've been using these. I don't know.
Awesome.
But I've been putting it in the blender with some ice, and so it comes out like a shake. Yeah. From Frosty, from like Wendy's or something. So would that be a good thing to do? I mean, I usually do it in the morning, after I exercise, but would that be something good to do at night?
Here's what I would say. Again, everything's trade-offs. I think those Fairlifes I think whey protein is actually definitely a net positive. I've never seen any evidence that whey protein powder ever does anything negative. Every time it's studied, it shows a benefit in people. The Fairlife, that's a little bit more of a processed food. So I mean, my mom has those. So whenever I go back home for the holidays, I just I just love chocolate milk, right? It's easy to drink like 2 of those in a day. So again, I'd put this on a sliding scale. You're getting a lot of protein from that. You're also probably getting some stuff that's but again, I mean, Kathy, if it's a choice between that or ice cream,
right,
every time, So, it's learning to eat more whole foods is a long-term process. And if it's helpful for you to use those Fairlife kind of as like an intermediate, and, I'll be transparent that I drink I drink those Fairlifes occasionally. I think you're more than able going to be able to get away with it. But again, I would say, again, this isn't about like, but I think that like evening yogurt is just like an awesome, like I give that like a 9 out of 10. Whereas I'd give a Fairlife maybe like a 6 out of 10. But again, like that's not that bad. Samantha, she blends up the Fairlife with the ice, and it's like ice cream. And I think those Fairlifes, like they give you a lot of protein, and I just don't know about all the other stuff in it. Like I don't know. I don't know how harmful it is, or it's literally just yeah. I mean, those Fairlifes are delicious. Fairlife, Donna, is just like it's a milk product, but they've literally just, so actually this goes back to the macronutrients. Okay, so milk is water, protein, fat, and sugar, right? And then skim milk, they take away a little bit of the fat, and then what you're left with is water, protein, less fat, and sugar. And then completely skim milk has no fat in it. And then Fairlife, they boil the water out so that it's a higher percent protein. And so they found a way to get 30 grams of protein in a milk product, basically, just by boiling it more, which, I mean, that's got some negative effects, but it's a higher concentration of protein. But it's helpful to know what that Fairlife actually is, like to literally know what is in that Fairlife is to know that they stripped away the fat, they boiled off the water, and then now that where it used to be water protein, it's water protein.
So basically, it still tastes like milk, though. You still drink it like milk, or what do you?
Oh yeah. It just tastes like chocolate milk. They made a chocolate version and a salted caramel version, and it's you can buy them in big cases at Costco, and it's totally.
Andrew, the first time you told me about that, I went and got some, and I overdosed. So it is addictive.
I tried to warn you though, right, Biff? Like I told you that might happen. Yeah. I mean, so
didn't work though.
Yeah. Be careful. They're darn good. Yeah. Okay. I've got a quick question from Carol. She said yogurt and good maple syrup plus blueberries. She's asking if our body metabolizes maple syrup differently than sugar. I hate to like burst the bubble, but your body will break down maple syrup basically directly into sugar. Now again, sugar is a healthy body's main source of energy. Right now, I'm a sugar burner. My body uses glucose. In the gym, I use glucose throughout the day. So, if you're metabolically healthy, if you're not on a ketogenic intervention, you can have a little budget for maple syrup. And, I do maple syrup like once a week. On the weekend, I'll do like some whole bread French toast with like, I dip it in eggs. I do some really good seeded breads. I put a little bit of maple syrup on. So I do a little bit. But it will, like if you have pre-diabetes or diabetes and you eat a bunch of maple syrup, your blood sugar is going to show it. Okay, so here's the fun part. The question is honey better than maple syrup nutritionally? Here's what I would say about honey versus maple syrup versus white sugar. Honey and maple syrup are both like pretty natural sources. From a macronutrient standpoint, they're all pure sugar. That's what they are. Now, honey and maple syrup are less processed than a white granulated sugar, and my bias would be the honey and maple syrup are healthier. Even though they might have the same effect on your blood sugar, they're just more natural. That your body's probably more used to processing them. Now that being said, a little bit of honey goes a long way, and I think most of the people on this call can live a life where they're able to put a little bit of honey in their yogurt and not have to worry about it. Every single one of you has a carbohydrate budget. you can use that carbohydrate budget until we figure out that it's messing you up, if that makes sense. So Sherry, I haven't given you targets yet for your carbohydrates and fat. I'll give you those soon. And everybody on this call knows that we test those. You know, I gave Kathy a prescription of fat and carbohydrates that we switched because she was having some cholesterol issues. So we tweaked the way she ate her fat. Some people we find that, hey, actually we gave you too many carbs. We're going to back those off. Some clients I have are working out in the gym and they're not quite getting, they're not as energetic in the gym, or they've plateaued in their results. So some of those people, we actually give a little bit more carbs, and then they can lift a little bit heavier, build a little bit more muscle. So again, my goal is I will help you determine so Cindy Lou asked the question, what do I eat when I'm behind on my targets? Well, I'll help you determine the context for your targets, and then let's work to build healthy whole foods up to those targets, if that makes sense.
It does.
Okay, good. Okay, so we've talked about how many calories are in each of the macronutrients, but now it's important to say that not all calories work in the body exactly the same. The best way to demonstrate this would be a Big Mac is about 2,000 calories. Everyone on this call knows and can be a living testament to, if you ate chicken, rice, kale, and olive oil up to 2,000 calories, that would have a very different effect on your body, right? Do we all accept that?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Okay, one of the reasons for that is because the macronutrient composition of chicken, rice, olive oil, and kale is different than McDonald's, but it's more than that. We'll talk about some of those. But I do want to talk about some of the individual macronutrients and their components. So protein is, I kind of call it the first macronutrient. It is essential. Proteins are essential. You cannot manufacture, essential in the nutrition world means you have to get it in your diet or else you die, because your body can't make it internally. So vitamin C is a great example. If you don't have vitamin C, what disease do you get?
Scurvy.
Scurvy. Your body can't just make vitamin C. You've got to get it from an orange. People die with scurvy if they don't get an orange. If they get an orange, their body literally, they heal within 3 days. So protein is very similar to that. It's a little bit more of like a chronic thing, but you have to get protein from your diet. If you're not getting it in your diet, your body can't make it. Protein is the building block of all functional tissue in your body, including bones, muscles, organs, your brain. Pinch your skin, that's protein and water. Touch your face, that's protein and water. Open your eyeballs, that's protein and water. Pull your hair, that's protein and water. You are protein and water. And I know people they're like, you have me eat this much protein? The reality is I don't really have anybody on a high protein diet, but it always feels like a high protein diet. But you've just got to think, every cell in your body gets replaced within 60 days. That's a big protein demand. And if you're eating a little bit more chicken or tuna than you're used to, I promise there's a reason. It's because you got to remake all those cells. I really think most people ought to be serving protein as a main course, 2 meals a day. That's a really big behavior change for most people. You're like, really? Tuna and salmon? I do tuna for lunch, salmon for dinner? That's a lot. I recognize that's a lot. That's a big change. And you'll realize how big of a change it is when you go into a restaurant. And some of you might be scratching your head and realizing that restaurants aren't serving you protein. Protein's a little bit more expensive, so restaurants serve you fat and carbs. So anyways, that's kind of an aside. But the typical American diet is significantly deficient in protein. Most people are eating 10 to 15% of all their calories from protein. I recommend people get about to 20 to 25%. So that's, if you're doing the math on that, you're roughly doubling your protein intake. And most people are pretty much doubling their protein intake pretty quickly when they start working with us. But the good news is they feel better. I've had people stop losing their hair almost immediately just by kind of supplementing some collagen in their coffee. you're not able to build muscle if you don't eat protein. So if you've been who works out for a long time, but you've plateaued, or you haven't gotten any stronger, just eating more protein is a way to increase your strength. And then the other thing is the need for protein actually increases with age and activity level. So you're going to need more protein at the age of 80 as you did at the age of 40. You're going to need more protein if you start lifting weights than if you hadn't been lifting weights. So if you've just started lifting weights, or if you just got a Bowflex machine in your house and you're about to start using that, what is going to be accompanied by that change in your lifestyle?
Increased protein.
Yeah, you now need, when you work out, you break down these building blocks. You break down your muscles, you break down your bones. That's a good thing if you repair them. You don't repair them without protein.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, any questions on protein? Any frustrations on protein? Anybody want to throw their shoe at me because they're tired of eating chicken?
I've been told in the past that too much protein has the opposite effect on your, can have the opposite effect on your insulin. So I guess it makes it feel weird to me.
Yeah.
I don't know how much is too much. I don't know what that number is.
Yeah, so protein does have a short-term effect on spiking insulin. And this is why, Cheryl, we're not like a high protein diet. Like there are some people that like literally nobody, I don't think I have anybody in here who's eating more than 30% of their calories from protein. So, there's not much evidence, Cheryl. Like I've never seen a study where I have never in my life seen a study where looking at triglycerides, blood sugar, insulin, diabetes, a higher protein diet led to worse results. We've never seen that. However, I'm not going to put someone on 300 grams of protein a day just because I want to be reasonable, and that it's not necessary. So Shara, the downside of not getting enough protein is worse than the danger of overdoing it, if that makes sense.
Yes, that does.
Okay. Okay. Samantha says she's also heard that if you take in too much protein in one meal, the excess is waste. The body can only take in a certain amount each meal. Okay, so a couple of notes on that. Protein is the least likely macronutrient to be turned into fat. So protein is extraordinarily challenging to be converted in your body to fat and then put at your belly. So there's a study of, and these are like really fit like bodybuilders, but they had them basically drinking so much protein powder, they were taking in 500 grams of protein a day, and they had no adverse effects, which that's ridiculous. But they didn't have any adverse effects. So they didn't develop body fat or anything. But it is true that you can only use so much protein in one sitting, just like you can only process so many calories in one sitting. So one of the downsides of a meal at McDonald's is you eat a meal at McDonald's, that's 1,800 calories. Well, shoot, your body can only handle, maybe 900 at once. So it's just got to deal with the other 900, and it might store that as fat. So large meals are less favorable to body fat. And it is true that there's only so much protein you can get. My cutoff for me is like, I never eat more than 8 ounces of a meat. For most people, I would say, 7 ounces is fine. You could probably cut it off at 7 ounces.
At a time?
Yeah. But that's a lot. I mean, most people, so that's still a lot. So again, I do want you to spread your protein out. But most people are eating 1 to 2 ounce servings of a lean protein. And I'd rather you, I don't know, if I'm not going to be frustrated with you if you're like, hey, I ate too much protein this week. It's usually going to be like, okay, like it didn't have a huge negative effect. Kathy, 1 second, I'll call you. Samantha, that's about 200 grams. 8 ounces, about 200 grams. I never go over, as soon as my scale says, if it ever hits 200, I just stop eating protein and I go to the next thing. So max grams of protein per meal, I would say for you, Samantha, maybe 180. If you ever hit 180, you can just cut off there. You don't need to eat more than that. Kathy, yes, can I help you?
Yeah. breakfasts, what is a good breakfast to get you started? I mean,
good question.
You know, because at one time you said if you exercise, to do the carb beforehand and the protein after.
Good
but
question.
When you don't, you know, I struggle with my breakfasts.
Yeah. Okay, so if you have a budget for carbohydrates, so assuming you're not on a ketogenic intervention, if you're doing keto, you're going low carb, you're reversing one of those disease states, you know, I would do eggs, sausage, a full fat yogurt, a smoothie, or some combination of those. You know, so I'd just do something like that, something that's really easy. And I'd also put cottage cheese in my eggs if I'm lower carb, because I'd get more fat in there, I'd get more calories in there. So that's what I would do. That's just my first taste. If you are working out in the mornings, here's the good news. You are more insulin sensitive in the morning than you are in the evening. So what that means is if you take in a bunch of pasta in the evening and then you just go to bed, you are more likely to store that as body fat. But if you eat some oats and an apple for breakfast, and then you go to the gym and you work out, and then you just have a normal busy day, you're going to use most of those carbohydrates. So Kathy, you're like right now, you're on just a pretty traditional, you have proteins, fats, and carbs. You're working out really hard. You're rebuilding your metabolism. You're doing great. You know, I would love for someone like you, some overnight oats for breakfast. That's just been a personal favorite of mine. I put some fruit in there, like some berries. I do some berries. I do a little bit of almond milk, and then maybe, you know, a hard-boiled egg or two, something like that. But it is okay. I really feel much better with people loading their carbs early in the day or before a workout, because you're going to use those carbs. So with whatever your carb budget is, Kathy, you know, I have most people spend about 70% of that before dinner.
Okay.
That way you're not like trying to catch up on carbs at dinner and eat a big bowl of pasta or, you know, rice or something.
That's what's happening, is I'm trying to catch up in the evening time on the carbs.
Yeah. Donna, so you suggest some variety other than, you know, eggs and butter. I love a full fat yogurt. I might even do it with like one of those keto granolas that's got like coconut oil that holds it together. So it's like kind of a higher fat granola. I like that. And then most people on keto can still have a pretty good berry diet. So blueberries and raspberries are very low in net carbs. So that'd be a good option for you. Okay, no one threw a shoe at me. Any other questions on protein before we move to fats? Okay, let's move to fats. By the way, here is the lean protein sources from the meal matrix. By lean protein source, it means that pretty much 90% of the calories in this food comes from protein. So this is, I explained this today, if 115 grams is on the scale, this is how many grams of protein you're getting. So looking at the macro matrix here, it's much like this. The 115 grams at the top there is like 100 grams of a ribeye steak is 19 grams of protein. That is 115 grams of chicken breast is 35 grams of protein. Does that make sense on how to read that? What you'll notice is lean protein sources. Thanks, Donna. Yeah, you're free to go, whatever. I'll send out the recording today. What you'll notice is lean protein sources generally have a pretty similar protein content. So that's just helpful for you if you ever eat at a restaurant or you eat at a wedding or you don't have control over your food. You can kind of estimate and know how much protein you're getting. Okay, fats. I will try to speed this up a little bit because I want to be patient with y'all's time. But this has been really good. I feel like this has been an engaging discussion. But okay, fats are another essential nutrient. So fats and proteins are essential. You cannot manufacture them. You have to have them or you die. Carbohydrates are not essential, so you don't need them to live, even though I would say most people are going to want them because they exist out there. They're going to want to be able to use them. But fats, you don't have an option. You have to eat fats. Fats are your slow-acting fuel source. So if you go for a long walk, a big test or you're in a chip match, you're going to be using fats as your energy source for that. Fats are also critical to synthesizing our hormones. In the 70s and 80s, when the low fat diet was really common, unfortunately, it was also very common for like libido to go down, depression to go way up, like mood disorders and infertility, like all kinds of like really big issues start to happen if you're not getting enough fat. Your body does not have the materials to build your hormones, and that has disastrous results. So I'll pretty much never put anyone below 45 grams of fat in a day, like under any circumstance. Like that would be very, very low.
But like I have a really bad family history of high cholesterol, and my cholesterol's been up over 400 before. So I'm down with a Lipitor, but even with that, my triglycerides were 333. So I've always, for years, kind of watched my fats to try to keep that down. So I do have a little bit of a problem. I understand all this, but can we, like, maybe next month do just another cholesterol and make sure I'm not out of whack?
Yeah, we'll absolutely test that. And the next slide will be important too. So Kathy, can I tell a little bit of your story real quick?
Yeah.
Okay, so Kathy, thank you for that, Kathy. Kathy's got a big family history, a lot of cholesterol. Also had some blood sugar issues. Her blood sugar wasn't quite as controlled as we want to be. So we put her on a lower carb intervention. The problem is we put her on a lower carb intervention, we put her fats a little bit higher, and her cholesterol started just kind of running a little bit crazy. So we actually kind of flipped it back, and we actually put her on higher carbs. We lowered her fat, not unreasonably, but lowered it a little bit. And then we switched her to really, really good quality fats. So I could touch on some of this, but basically you've got saturated fats, monounsaturated fats, and polyunsaturated fats. Saturated fats are generally the fats in animals, but they're also in coconut oil, but like butter, red meat, those are saturated fats. And those are more likely to raise your cholesterol. Fatty meats will raise your cholesterol. And so that's where the source of your fat really does matter. So here is a green, red, yellow, and red. These are fats that you can eat on an unlimited basis. And again, I don't know, maybe you can't do unlimited, but practically, I've never had a client who's like olive oil was messing them up. You know, avocado oil is messing them up. Instead, avocados are improving your cholesterol. Yellow would be things like saturated fats, and yellow is actually, some people, like you two, Cindy and Kathy, would be, y'all are the reason why this is yellow, because some people, their cholesterol really runs wild on saturated fats. Now, there are other people who seem to be able to eat so many saturated fats, it just doesn't really matter that much. So for those people, it's almost like that's a green too. But for you, Cindy Lou, we're going to try to make sure that most of your fats are coming from this green here.
Okay.
And then the big reds are your industrial seed oils. These are like not even like real food. These are seeds that they've got to send to a factory to get pressed and scrunched, and it's mechanically separated. And these are incredibly inflammatory, and they are a very, very low quality fat. And these actually, interesting, lower your cholesterol on your lab work, but then they kill you. So this would be like margarine. I didn't put that on here.
And they kill you.
And they kill you. Yeah, never mind.
Hey, Andrew.
Yeah.
This is Karen. If you have gallbladder issues sometimes and fats are hard to digest, what would you do?
Your green fat sources are going to be a little bit easier to digest. But the thing that I would maybe do with that, maybe not the biggest thing, but I wouldn't eat really large portions of fat in one sitting. So really large portions of fat it's like traffic. You know, your system, the interstate moves really well, at 75% capacity and you'll never have a traffic jam. But the minute you hit 80% capacity, everything breaks down, right? If there's just a little bit more cars on the road, a big traffic jam comes up. With
so
fats
just spread
like
it
that,
out. Just spread it out through the day. Huh?
Yeah, spreading out really good quality fats throughout the day is awesome. Yeah.
Okay.
Real quick on this fats thing, is a total side note, but they did a study on with people in insane asylums or I don't know what to call it, mental health institutions in the 70s and 80s, and they did it for like 20 years, where they fed one butter and they fed the other margarine, and they took their cholesterol. And do y'all know what happened? Have y'all heard this story? Have I said this before?
No.
So they took their cholesterol, and the margarine group, their lab work looked way better. And then they got a lot of dementia and died at much higher rates of heart disease and other preventable illnesses. So it's almost like it lowered the cholesterol because it was like shutting down their liver, and their liver wasn't producing anything. So now the greens will not increase your risk of death, and they'll lower your cholesterol. So yeah. Another thing that really helps if you are someone who is having cholesterol issues is fiber in your diet. Fiber will drive down that cholesterol as well. So good quality carbohydrates like oats, seeds, and supplementing with something like psyllium husk can be really helpful.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, we're probably going to have to break this into two. I'm going to go for about 5 more minutes, maybe 6 more minutes, and then I'll just cut that off and see where that goes, just so that I'm mindful of y'all's time. And I'll give part 2 maybe next week. Okay, carbohydrates are the healthy body's primary fuel source. So as long as you're not, pre-diabetic, which again, many people are, carbs can be your primary fuel source. So right now, I'm eating a fair amount of carbs. It's your fast acting fuel source. So if you're working out really hard in the gym, doing strength training, or you're doing cardio, like you're using carbs generally in that circumstance. So carbs are kind of your intra workout fuel, but they also help repair your muscles after a good workout. And then just remember, metabolically diseased individuals are people who are defined by, are literally losing their ability to use carbohydrates for energy effectively. So if you're showing that disease pattern, we've got to fix the fact that your body can't use carbs. So the first thing we might want to do is let's get everything looking good. And that might include taking out carbs from your diet for a while, but that doesn't mean you're cured. You're cured when you actually can use carbohydrates without it, bringing about prediabetes. And then here are some, again, quality carbohydrate sources for the meal matrix. Brown rice is better than white rice. So if you've ever got a choice, do brown rice. Pretty much everything else on this list is pretty darn good. Whole wheat pasta. I would put whole wheat pasta and white rice as the worst options on this list. But yeah, and again, this assumes that you're eating some carbs, and some people on this call are low carb right now.
When you talk about whole grain bread, you've said a few times, you've mentioned seeded bread.
Yes.
Sprouted bread, or what's the?
Yes, sprouted bread. My 2 favorite kinds are Ezekiel bread or Dave's Killer bread.
Okay. These
are very high in fiber. They're very high in like omega-3s. They've actually got a little bit of protein in them. I mean, this stuff is so good for you. It's very low glycemic. And for people who do have a history of high cholesterol, it'll lower that cholesterol.
I bought a Trader Joe's or an Aldi version. I
Perfect.
don't know. I don't know how. I don't know.
It's Grain-tastic or whatever. I love those. Yeah, they're all pretty good quality. So I don't have a particular brand that I'm allegiant to. Whatever you like, basically. Okay, so I'm gonna just touch on honestly. Okay, I'm gonna skip micronutrients for now. I did a training on those the other week. I'm not gonna talk about that. I am gonna briefly mention periodization. I'm gonna spend a couple minutes on that. So periodizing your diet. There's a season for everything under the sun. This is, periodization is the solution that comes about based on the reality that you can't just eat healthy or, be a healthy person now and your body just like release all the body fat that you want it to lose. So like if you've got 100 pounds to lose, 80 pounds, 50, 20 pounds, you can't just snap your fingers and eat spinach and be diligent and lose all that weight. Does that make sense? Like your body will not easily let go of a bunch of body fat. Your body has all kinds of protective mechanisms to keep fat on your body. Does that make sense that weight loss is more than just, oh, I'm just going to be healthy and I'll just lose the weight? Like your calories really matter. The composition of the food that you're eating matters. How much muscle you have matters. Does anybody want more clarification on that, or do we all kind of understand that?
I mean, I guess that's why you can't keep weight off with like a diet, right?
Right. That's actually a whole other live training. But one of the reasons why yo-yo dieting happens, Shara, is that we lose a lot of weight. As we lose weight, we're losing muscle as well. And the minute we end that diet and we go back to just eating a normal amount of food, your body just packs on because it's trying to rebuild some of that lean mass that you lost. So the number one way to decrease weight gain after a diet is to do resistance training. Is to lift some weights.
Okay.
So Shara, this morning you asked why don't we do cardio? Well, we did a little bit of cardio. We did do cardio, but primarily you're lifting weights because taking care of your muscles, stewarding your muscle, is a non-negotiable for long-term healthy weight maintenance. So okay. So all of us recognize you can't just do healthy behaviors and lose all the weight you have. So what that leaves us with is we can't just lose weight. We've got to do other things. And so most time actually needs to be spent, even if you got a lot of weight to lose, we spend most of our time not losing weight. And the reason why we spend most of our time not losing weight is because to lose weight, you've got to cut the energy that you're eating a lot, which is one set of demands. But to maintain your daily energy level, to maintain your metabolism, to keep up all your body processes working, to keep your hormones in line, just to like take care of your bones, your muscles, your hair, all that kind of stuff, you need sufficient energy. So we've developed a way to put all of our clients through seasons, basically. A season of fat loss and disease reversal, where you get your blood work looking really darn good and you lose, 15, 20 pounds of fat. And, you make all those, traditional improvements that we look for in diet. And then you got a season where you maintain your muscle. You actually build your metabolism a little bit faster. You increase the nutritional quality of your diet. And then, so we've got different periods because your body needs different things. Even if you got a lot of weight to lose, your body needs more than just fat loss. So the 4 periods are maintenance, which is just sustaining sufficient calories and exercise. So this is where we spend kind of most of our lives. Reverse diet is when we actually increase nutrient and calorie intake. So a lot of times we're not eating enough nutrients. We're not eating enough protein. We're not eating enough to get in the gym and get a really good workout in. So sometimes we need to give you a little bit more food. The diet is when we do intentionally pursuing fat loss. And then disease reversal would be pretty much like a ketogenic intervention, where if you've got some of those pre-diabetes markers and you've got some of those family risk factors, we would make your diet phase a low carbohydrate restricted fat loss phase and really change the energy system of your body over towards that. So this might be the first time you've seen these periods. If you're kind of if this is one of your first trainings, we will walk you through when you will do each of these. Pretty much all of our clients will do 1 through 3. Our clients with any risk factors will do generally we'll do the 4th one. Okay, any questions on this? Again, you may not have had time to go through what this looks like, but you can ask any questions you have. Most people, with some exceptions, very few exceptions actually, you shouldn't spend your whole life on keto. Pam, can I use you as an example?
Sure.
So you are low carb, you're at about 100 grams of carbs. You're not keto.
That's not low. Is that low?
Yes.
That would be considered low carb. Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. I thought low was about 20.
It's high for you because you've done keto, but no, you're just like at a kind of low, moderate carb, because we want your body to have some. It's like if you play piano and you stop playing piano for 3 years, you'll forget how to play piano. If you keep carbs out of your system forever, the one day where you have a donut, you might go to the hospital. That's an exaggeration. But the point is, like, if you keep carbs out forever and you ever have a bad week, that's when people like puff up 12 pounds. It's like, so we want to keep some carbohydrates in your diet. So even something like you, Pam, you're probably never going to be high carb. You'll probably never be on a high diet. You'll be kind of like a moderate low carb. And a lot of people really sit well there. They enjoy that. They feel good at that. That's fine. And then we are going to have periods where we really do keto, where we drop those very, very low and restrict your body from carbs. The final thing I'll say is this is going to be, so this discussion, I'm kind of going to break into 3 parts, just because I'll go into more detail on this, but these are like 5 principles to apply. I think these are kind of coming to these as some of the 5 most important pieces. There may be a few other pieces, but if walk away from this discussion with the desire to apply these 5 things. Be consistent with your meal structure. That's probably more behaviorally a benefit to you. You could eat at a different time every day, and if you eat all the right things, you're probably going to be fine. But realistically, you got to have a structure to your food, and you might as well keep it really consistent. The more consistent you are with your meal structure, the easier it is for you to accomplish your goals. Number 2, you've got to eat enough, and eating enough will change depending on when it's time for fat loss, when it's time to maintain your muscle. But most people are not getting on a day-to-day basis enough nutrients. So you actually need to eat enough. And usually you need to eat enough before you're a good candidate for a lot of fat loss. Number 3, eat whole foods. I ask people for about 85 to 90% of their foods to come from whole food sources. And I recognize that people are going to do a little bit of, people are going to have ice cream every once in a while. If you're hitting your targets and you're having ice cream and that's less than 10% of your intake, let's test that. If you do really well on that, I'm going to be happy for you. And, that's y'all.
I'm going to go with the yogurt.
Well, again, I don't ask anybody to be perfect. Nobody can be perfect. And so 90% is perfection in my book. Consume adequate protein, because again, you are protein. It is the most essential nutrient. And then the 5th thing, this is really challenging for people to understand until you talk them through it. Undereating is a stressor. So if you've done a lot of yo-yo dieting in the past, or if you're just walking around and you've stopped losing weight and you're eating 1,100 calories, you're actually adding more challenges to your body than you're solving by undereating. So if you've dieted a lot in the past, just recognize that you've put a lot of stress on your body. And if we eat enough by number 2, we can kind of rework some of that stress. I'm 11 minutes over, but I got a couple more minutes for y'all if you've got time. I'd like to just throw it to y'all for any questions that y'all have or any clarification points. But if you need to leave, just feel free to drop off.
Hey, Andrew.
Yes.
What's a good way to meal prep so that those things are available to you where you don't make bad choices? Like, do you grill several pieces of chicken and do a bunch of sweet potatoes and have them all in your refrigerator to, make a balanced meal?
Awesome question. Yeah, so that really gets to consistent meal structure. And everybody has a little bit of a different system, but I'll kind of share my system. I used to try to prep everything for the whole week in one day. That became more stressful, and just like if I didn't do it, that was an all in or all out thing. I was either 100% perfect on the week, or I didn't have time on Sunday and I did nothing. The system that I have now is I pretty much I buy the chicken tenderloins. I pay $2 more extra a pound because I just take the chicken tenderloins. We go on Sunday to Aldi. I pull those out. I dump them on the air fryer tray. I season them, put them in an air fryer. And I cook about 4 pounds of chicken. It takes me about 8 minutes to prep. And I put that in Tupperware. Then usually I'll get some sweet potatoes and I'll wrap them in tin foil and I'll put about 10 in the oven at about 400, 450 degrees, 400, I guess, for an hour. And then I pull those out. So I've got a healthy carbohydrate and a lean protein, about 4 to 5 meals prepped in less than 10 minutes. So I usually do something like that. Then I'll make some rice in the Instant Pot. I'll buy a bunch of canned beans, and then I usually buy a rotisserie chicken. And then I also have some canned tuna. So I try to do and then for my vegetables, I'll get broccoli and baby carrots, and I'll just keep steaming those throughout the week. So basically, I try to see, can I make 10 meals in 20 minutes? And if I can do that, I have a really good week. But really, I go to the meal matrix and I buy off of this. I just say, okay, what's my carb going to be this week? And I pick 3 carbs. And they make pre-cooked quinoa now. And that's too easy. I'll pay the extra $1 for pre-cooked quinoa that I could just throw in a pan. I don't have a microwave right now, but that I can just throw in a pan and it's ready. So I've actually gotten more and more comfortable as we've gotten more options, Renee. I just buy the thing that's already prepped or half prepped. You can buy chopped vegetables. Shoot, chopped vegetables, I just throw them in a pan throughout the week for about 5 minutes on high heat with olive oil and salt. And dang, I got my vegetables. So then for my breakfast, I always make about 3 at a time overnight oats, and then I'll buy hard-boiled eggs. So again, it takes me 5 minutes to put the overnight oats together, and then it takes me 0 time for the hard-boiled eggs. So I'm eating whole, nutritious foods with less prep time than I've ever prepped. Does that make sense, Renee?
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question.
Yes, Shara, ready for you.
About some of those things, I'm thinking of Aldi right now. So Aldi had, I thought it was quinoa, but it wasn't. It was pearled couscous, but it was frozen. It had spinach and it had lentils and it had white beans. It was like a protein blend. I mean, it was seasoned. It had some sort of is something like that okay rather than cooking quinoa from the bottom up, because I don't even know how to season quinoa.
Yeah, I think it's totally okay. I think it's sustainable if you like it. I think that's great. Now, the only other thing, I'm not calling you out here, but this is a good learning experience. They call those protein mixes, but if you actually were to look, beans, white beans, quinoa, lentils are all actually carbohydrates. They have some protein. Again, that probably has.
I was eating it as a carb source.
Right.
I mean, when in my plate, okay. I was using it for a carbohydrate source.
Right. And I love proteiny carbs like lentils and beans.
I didn't know if it was okay to buy something like that was, frozen and already.
I've moved to a heck yes. People are busy. If it's between that or, say you buy that, you put a bunch of that in your freezer and you can kind of pull that out, and whenever you're short on time, versus you don't have that option and you go to McDonald's, okay. No question. I'm taking I think your prep should be easy and sustainable. And the good news is there are so many good options out there right now that are just so easy.
Quinoa that was Mediterranean and it had tomatoes, but they didn't have that, and it didn't have very many dirty ingredients at all. But I didn't find that, so I use this other thing instead.
If you find it again, shoot me a text of it because I'd like to see it. I can even post in the Facebook group. But I love they have those roasts now at Aldi. I just put the roast in the Instant Pot and it cooked it took me 3 minutes. I poured it in there, poured in some chicken stock, salted it.
Would you say a roast?
Yeah, they do a beef roast with some carrots and some potatoes.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Easiest thing ever.
Hey Andrew, what about tomatoes?
Yeah, I mean, tomatoes are clearly one of God's great gifts to the world.
I agree with that.
Yeah, they're not that high in sugar. You know, if you're really going keto for a little bit, you probably can't do a ton of tomato, but you know, tomatoes are great.
Andrew, do you get any comments? Well, you're going to get one now, I guess, of the you know, what you talked about with your food prep, and you know, you got 4 days worth of chicken and yada yada yada. It seems boring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So okay, it does seem boring, but I'll change it up a million ways with little things. I'll give you a couple of examples. Seasonings, condiments, different combinations can go a long way. So I've got an Italian seasoning for the chicken. I've got like the sesame, everything but the bagel seasoning. I love my food life, and I'm someone that likes a lot of variety. So this week I changed my food up a little bit. I got Primal Kitchen ketchup. It's got nothing bad in it. And I got to eat like a chicken sandwich with some ketchup. I did Dave's Killer Bread, chicken breast, and ketchup. It was amazing. So
I would never put ketchup on a chicken sandwich.
Okay. Would you ever put? No, this might make it worse. Would you ever put ranch on a chicken sandwich?
Yes.
Yeah, I can do that.
Sounds good.
Okay. So you know, again, whatever floats your boat. So Primal Kitchen, all these condiments, you can get these at Kroger now. I don't think they have all these options at Kroger. You might have to order some of these. All these condiments. Target does?
They did, yeah.
Perfect. All of these are like a green light. All of these are made with green light fats. There's nothing bad in here. You can do a tuna salad with this mayo. You can do chicken salad with the mayo. You can heap the mayo on. It's all incredibly good stuff. So I actually let I let people like this, like the things that make restaurants really good is their sauces. Just buy the things like this, like healthy sauce options, and it makes so much variety to your food. So I can actually do very little on my food prep side and still get a lot of variety. But I think you might be surprised, like there is, like I eat a fair amount of variety. I'm always switching things up a little bit. So yeah, it does sound a little bit boring sometimes, but you know, it's hard to give someone exactly the template. Everybody's going to eat a little bit different. Literally, there's going to be a slight different flavor to the way everybody eats. But I think I eat so exciting. I mean, my wife and I did I did a little butter, shrimp, garlic, parsley, and we put it over some whole wheat pasta with some lemon. It was just like totally incredible. With steamed broccoli on the side. I mean, I can't get enough of that. So does that kind of answer it?
Sure.
I have a question. Does the ranch dressing taste like avocado? Because it says it's avocado oil. Because I checked, it is gluten-free. So, but I saw that big old avocado on the front, and I just wondered, does it taste avocado?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
And she liked it. I don't think it does.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think so either.
I'm gonna get it anyway and try it, but I just wondered if it, you know, if I had to prepare myself to eat avocado.
yeah. That's unfortunate because I love avocado, but
I know.
Biff, I'll be sharing more of like the food that I'm actually eating. And you know, there is something like there's like 40,000 different variations just on that macro matrix. And not all of them are super consequential, but you know, there's a lot of variety to be had in some. Now I do think in general, as a general rule, the simpler the food, the better. Just like as a rule of thumb, eating simply is great. The only reason why I don't always want people to eat super simply is because people will get bored, and if they're bored, they won't keep doing it. But if you had a choice between eating a meal that had 3 ingredients or eating a meal that had 300 ingredients, go with the 3 ingredients. Go with something that's pretty straightforward and simple. And then I like to add in variety by adding some condiments and some sauces and stuff. So, and I buy a new spice every other week. I try a new seasoning on my chicken or steak, you know, every other week. So
The other thing I've been finding just quickly is I can get to the macros, but without doing something outlandish, it's hard to get to the caloric intake that you want me to get to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If you can get to the generally, Biff, it's just that your carbs are a little bit low. But if you hit the macros individually, the calories might not match exactly, because I calculate calories a little bit differently than your food tracking app. But the difference shouldn't be significant. If you're within 10% on all the macros, you should be about within 10% on the calories. So
okay,
yeah.
Right.
But Biff, you're a good example. You're working really hard and your body's responding really well. Your metabolism right now is like a wildfire, and you've got a little bit more freedom for more food, just because like your metabolism is just ready for it. I mean, you are working hard. It's just going like crazy. And so you're kind of like me. Like sometimes I just got to eat. Like I got to eat not like I just can't eat kale and spinach up to get to my calories. Sometimes I got to throw in there like just some peanut butter. I just got to get down to get enough calories because I'm working hard. You're working hard in the gym too, Biff. And so right now, like as long as you're eating 90% whole foods, you can kind of, you can throw in some fuel there that's maybe not, 100% perfect, if that makes sense. I'm not telling you to eat a bunch of, yeah, Pam, you go.
I'm sorry. A couple of times now you've mentioned the macro matrix, and I really don't know what you're talking about. I obviously have missed something.
Yeah, it's this document.
What document?
Do you see my screen? Do you see this?
No, I see you, but I can't see a screen.
Did you see were you able to see the presentation?
No, I've been watching people.
Go to.
So obviously, I'm not on the right screen then, huh?
You might have me pinned here. Here, I'm gonna cut off the recording here for just a second.
Bye, Andrew.
Hey. Bye.